Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon for anyone joining us from London and Europe. Thank you for joining us today for this webinar at Notes Code. Our topic today is utilizing the OpenNTF Domino API. Our presenter is Oliver Busa from We4IT. He is also an IBM champion, and he'll have a better introduction of himself in just a few minutes. I just want to do a quick introduction of what the topic is and also remind you that if you do have some questions, there will be a short time at the end of Oliver's presentation to be able to ask him some questions directly. He'll also have his contact information up on the screen, so you might want to write down his email. And if you have any questions and want to contact him directly, you can do so. If you do have questions you'd like to ask during this webinar at the end of his presentation, please expand your GoToWebinar control panel and type in the question, and that way it'll be queued up and ready for me to give that question to Oliver, and then he can respond. And before we actually get over to Oliver's presentation, we do have 3 short poll questions. We would appreciate your participation in these. So just very simple, and it's more just to give Oliver a gauge of where everyone is at in terms of a couple of items here. So the first poll question will be popping up onto your screen in just a moment. And great, let me just, perfect. So you should see the first poll question, what is your preferred language in your XPages applications? So this kind of gives Oliver a good idea of where everyone's at. Looks like we're pretty even between the 2 languages. In just a moment, I will share the results. Almost all of us have voted. All right, so I'm going to stop this poll and share the results. So 44% are using Java, 33% server-side JavaScript, and 22% not using XPages. All right, I'm going to run the next poll, and these are very short polls. So we have, the poll is, which version of Domino are you using? So we just want to just double check and make sure where everyone's at currently. So we're almost done voting here. Almost all of us have voted. Great. Great participation today, everyone. Thank you very much on these polls. So I'm going to share this poll, and we have just a few of us that are running 8.5, so 16% of us, 84% running 9.01. All right, great. Thank you for that. The next one and the last one is the big question. Are you going to ConnectEd 2016? All right. I'm going to close this. We've all voted, and I'll share this. Unfortunately, it's kind of the same pattern. Might be due to budget constraints, maybe lack of sessions that focus squarely on Domino, but here we are, 17% of us are going, 83% not. Okay, great. That's all I have for our pre-webinar announcements and housekeeping items. So Oliver, I'm going to change the screen over to you, and I'll let you know when I see your screen, and the time will be yours. All right, I see your presentation. The time is yours, Oliver. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Scott. I hope you can hear me. Hello and welcome from me to the webinar that is called Utilizing the OpenNTF Domino API. Just a few words at the beginning. I have a few slides here, and the slides will be published after the session. And even if I have to be a bit faster on this webinar, because we have just 1 hour or at least 15 minutes. So you can read everything about afterwards and check everything out afterwards. Some little information about me. I'm doing nodes quite a long time now. I just joined WeForm IT in April this year, and I'm a member of the development team of our famous video application framework, which is an X-Pages-based application framework for application migration and so on and so on. If you have any questions after the session, after our Q&A round in this webinar, just feel free to contact me via Twitter or via my homepage, send me a mail or any other channel. You can also use, since a few days, a new way to get in touch with OpenNTF project contributors, and even with those guys who created the OpenNTF Domino API, as we are now embracing the Slack service. Watch out for on the OpenNTF homepage for the new Slack service. Okay, this is the agenda, and of course I want to show you what is the OpenNTF Domino API about. The next part is a bit long, and I will shorten it up, and so you can reproduce it later. Just to save up some time to show you the real stuff. It's about setup and implementation of the OpenNTF API, as it is an extension you have to install. There are a few other considerations that I want to point to regarding this extension when you want to use it. And of course, I want to show you some examples. So what is the OpenNTF Domino API? First of all, it's an open source project on OpenNTF. We are very proud of that open source community on OpenNTF, and this project is one of many other great projects available there. And it was started in April 13 and still maintained and continuously developed by a lot of great guys that you may know. I know you know them, and even if I look at the participant list of this web, I can see at least one name from the developers. So welcome to the show. So what is the API about? From my point of view, it is intended to fill the gaps and give you possibilities you always wanted for the Java development in Nodes and Domino. If you are using Java in your Nodes development, maybe for several years, or now in your X-Pages applications, you've faced a lot of problems and tidbits, and this API wants to give you a better handle or a better tool to work with Java. In documentations, websites, or blog posts, it is often referred to as ODA because it's shorter. So what is the contents of the ODA? It is structured in several packages. One of them are shown here. These are the main packages, the core packages, the formula package which contains help functions to use formula, kind of styled methods and stuff, special REST service packages, and of course an XSP and XPages related, and many more. It is, as I said, it's an extension, and it is a so-called OSGI plugin that has to be installed on your runtime, which means on your server, and of course in your Domino Designer if you want to utilize it. It is unfortunately designed for the Domino server up from 9.0 to the current versions. It is not working on an older version like 8.5 or 3 or something. And it is entirely designed for the usage in XPages, where you use pure Java resources and server-side script resources. You can even use it there. And for your plugin development when you are creating own OSGI plugins. It is not intended to be used in Java agents. You cannot use that API in Java agents. So this is the credit page, and these are names that you definitely know. if you are aware of how to contact these people via Twitter is the preferred one, or if you join us in our Slack conversation, don't hesitate to ask ODA-related questions later. So this part shows you, and I want to do this very quick, how to set up this OSGI plugin. First of all, you have to download it. You go to the OpenNTF project page, download it there. I would recommend you to do so because there are final builds and already packaged zip files available. You can also grab it from the Git repository on OpenNTF on the GitHub page from OpenNTF and on the OpenNTF stash homepage, which is also available for public access. If you want to contribute, as it is an open source project, you can of course contribute to it. If you find bugs during your usage, you can report them, but you also can fix them and contribute them back to the project. The ODA comes with its own environment. Let's say it at least comes with its own logger, which is logging to log files that are located in the IBM technical support folder, where also the NSD stuff is written down and the other log files. So if you experience troubles during the runtime or even during loading that extension on your server, then the first look should go here. It is an OSGI plugin that you can install via a so-called update side mechanism. If you're not familiar with an update side mechanism, these slides will show you how to do it. And it is an extension to the HTTP server, to the XSP runtime. So what we first have to do to prepare our server is to check or set up the server security settings to make sure that you will use an ID that is able to sign or run unrestricted methods and operations. So you have to prepare the server document. If you need some help from your administrator, please ask him to use that ID that is defined here. The second step is to create an update side database. It is used to store the files that you downloaded from the OpenNTF website, and which will be a provider for first the server and second for the Domino designer to install the plugin on Domino designer via this update site. So this is a database which will be provided by your own Domino server. You can set it up on any other web-enabled Domino server if you like. It mustn't be the server that will be used for development, but I recommend that also. The update site is a template available on your server. It's called Eclipse Update Site. You just set the NSF up, name it whatever you want, but keep that name in mind, the NSF file name, and set up the ACL properly, at least to let the server read documents. So should be the default entry. So next step is from the downloaded package from the OpenNTF website, after extracting the files from the zip file, you will find a bunch of files and folders. And there is a folder that is called Update Site or similar. That folder contains also a folder structure and a file called site XML. That XML file is just containing an information. Okay, what's the name of the plugin? What is the content of the plugin? Which files are used? Which folders, and so on. And this file has to be imported in your update site NSF database you just set up in the step before. So there's an action, import local update site. Just navigate to the site XML on your hard disk and hit the OK button. And after some time, it will show up the entry on the right side in the view from that database, which is categorized on the OpenNTF Domino API, and the feature is also called OpenNTF Domino API. Look out for the version number that is displayed there. The current version is version 2, and I strongly recommend you to use the latest versions of that plugin, of course, because of bug fixes and features. And older versions won't give you the possibility to run my demo application I will use in a few minutes. So last step is to tell the server, okay, buddy, here is an update site available. Please use everything that is inside as an OSGI plugin and load it during startup, during loading the JVM of the Domino server. You have to add a server nodes ini file entry, which I recommend you to do via a server configuration setting document, which is the easiest way. Afterwards, you have to restart the whole server, of course, to let them read the nodes ini entry again. And this nodes ini entry with that great name has a value or values. You can even have several update site databases. These values point to the folder or to the NSF file path where the update site is resided on your Domino. In this case, in this example, it's just only update site NSF. In the screenshot below, you can see this setting uses two update site databases. One is called update site NSF and the other one is ODA UPD NSF. So you are able to have several separated update sites. So if you set it up and you restart the server, during the startup of the HTTP server, you should see this message, which just says, okay, I found there are update sites defined and I try to load those plugins into my OSGI runtime. Most cases it will succeed. If it was successful, you can easily check by issuing the shown command tell HTTP OSGI SS OpenNTF, which is just a key pattern or a text pattern for a search in that configuration, in that directory, as you want to name it. In the directory, the server has where all the plugins are listed, and OpenNTF is one keyword, and you see the output at the bottom of the slide. And there are several packages and plugins that have OpenNTF in its name, in their names. And the most important part is the state column, which says, okay, this plugin displayed here is active, which means it's working. And it can be used from this, by the server. Okay, the last page for setup of the ODA displays all steps necessary to install it on Domino Designer. It's quite similar, but you have to do some manual steps there, and you have to search for the plugin for yourself from the update site. I want to skip that because I already have a setup environment, of course, and you can read afterwards and do it in your own environment. So when using the OpenNTF Domino API, there are a few other considerations that I want to show you. First of all, if you never created applications that use or generate log entries, log documents, which say, okay, this function did this successfully or not. If you did not do that, I strongly recommend you to start right now with logging, with creating log mechanisms in your application code. Therefore, the ODA gives you a great way to create log documents which contain a lot of information during a problem or during, in this case, an exception that may occur at runtime. It's based on the OpenLog project, which is also from OpenNTF and a few years old, and uses a nodes database that has to be set up on the Domino server in the server's root. It has to be called openlog.nsf. But if this file is found, then you can use the displayed methods, XSP, OpenLog, util, and so on, from that class, and log documents will automatically generated in that NSF. I will show you that in a few minutes. Great stuff. So, long story. I want to show you, of course, some examples. I prepared a demo application. The application will also be available, or is already also available on my Bitbucket page. Links to everything I said are also part of the slides, of course. And you can install and set up my demo application just to reproduce the examples I want to show you here. The examples I chose from the very big list of improvements and features of the ODA deal with session handling, view handling, document and field handling, and datetime enhancements. These 4 parts are the bread and butter of nodes development. You always need a session to access your database, a view inside, to modify a document or a field, which is an item, to deal with datetime stuff, and so on and so on. So this is most common stuff every developer deals with. So there are a lot of enhancements regarding those core elements. The last 3 examples show you features the ODA delivers, which are quite interesting. These are transactions, XOTs, and graphs. I think the last part is the most interesting part. Okay, session handling. This is very quick. And you always need a session to access your environment, your database, even if it's the current one in which the code is running and so on, but you need a session. As a Java developer, you are offered several ways of getting a session. When you're using a Domino 9 environment, you may used to use the extension library, as it gives us already nice methods to gain sessions of various types. Current session with a logged-in user credentials, or the session assigner, and so on and so on. If you are using the OpenNTF Domino API, you have another class that delivers sessions and has the same methods as the xlibutil class. This class is called xsputil. So if you want to try this, you are free to do that. Both have one disadvantage. Both need to be exception handled. So your editor will complain to handle that exception when you are trying to get a current session. The third one is a very convenient one. It's the factory class, and it has also static methods which give you several informations from your environment, but the most important method is the getSession method, and it is always the same method, the method name, for various different session types. So session assigner with full access, and so on. The most important part, because I am lazy, I have no, there's no need to handle the exception. So there won't be any exception. So this is the time to switch to my browser. By the way, this is the project page from the ODA, and this is the project page that I mentioned from the OpenLog project. So this is my demo application. Yeah, it's nothing special. It's very simple programmed, and it uses some very basic code fragments to demonstrate the API. So the first page I want to show you is the session handling page, which has several computed text entries at the top of this page, which say, okay, you are the current user anonymous because I'm not logged in. This is another session type from the factory class also, which gives me the session as assigner. As I assigned that element, that code element, it gives me my name. So I'm not logged in, so this is the old-fashioned way to get the sessions. Some example code, but you just saw that. I just want to point out the first 2 methods used here, user current and user assigner, which use the factory class to get the session. And this is the getSession method using the session type enumeration, which says, okay, I want a session as assigner, but the same method name. So the return value is, of course, different. So when I'm logged in, I'm logging in now. Nothing spectacular will happen, but in this case, all names are equal, of course. Okay, so it's a very easy way to gain a session. Next one is view handling. I know you often had to loop through views, through the documents or the view entries in a loop, in a view with a loop. So excuse me. This is quite frustrating when doing it with the built-in Java API, the built-in techniques and structures. So this code is just a bad example to, oh no, it's not a bad example, it's a good example, actually, because it shows how to create a loop in Java to loop through a view and to get the documents, modify the documents or whatever, and to do it in a way that the system keeps stable. The key part is using recycling methods for all your nodes objects. There's a sentence which says, okay, I will always recycle my nodes objects. You have to recycle your nodes objects, otherwise your server will have a memory issue after various calls of that method, for example. What is also pointed out is that you have to do exception handling here when dealing with the nodes object. And you see that loop construction in the middle, that while loop, which uses the recycling and so on and so on. It's very complicated. After all, you have to recycle the collection and the database object also, which is quite pain in the ass. So if you forget that, and of course you did, I did also, then you run into trouble. This is not what you are able to do now with the ODA. First, the code looks much cleaner. So it is not using a while loop. It is using a for loop, which is a nice thing because you don't run into the trouble that you may produce an infinite loop when you forget to step to the next document. The for loop uses an iterator. So the idea is to have those methods from the OpenNTF Domino API giving you different return values than you are used to. Of course, there are possibilities to use the old-fashioned way still, but there are also other methods that return, in this case, iterations. The document collection is a document collection, but it's iterable. So you can use a for loop. It's not necessarily faster. Some of the developers claim that the OpenNTF Domino API is much faster than using the old-fashioned API. I would say it depends on what you are doing with, in this case, with a document inside that loop. If you are doing a lot of stuff with the document, I would agree with that statement. So before it comes to the document handling, I just want to show you the page, which uses 4 different types. The first 2 actions execute a view loop without manipulating the document inside the loop, and the 2 other buttons modify the documents in that view. By the way, the demo application in this case has 10,000 documents inside. I can show you that also later. And if I hit the old-fashioned way, you can see I loop through 10,000 documents within 600 milliseconds. The ODA, it takes a bit longer, but I used it for the first time. But as I said, it's not necessarily faster. This is not modifying documents. This loop is modifying documents. And there you can see the difference. This is the old-fashioned way. Takes 6 seconds, and this is the ODA way. And even if it's not the reason why you want to use or change to the ODA, it's not the performance that you are searching. You want to search nicer code and convenient objects and handling with objects in your Java code. So performance could be, could be better sometimes. Okay, document handling, the next big thing. I want to just show you the new methods in the ODA. the new methods of document access or creation deliver you very nice variations of well-known methods to do so. The first part is creating a document by also giving parameters, key value pairs, which say, okay, I give you a string, which is a field name. When the object is, or when the document is created, it automatically sets a field name under that given name, and with a value that is inside that object. But you can, of course, use more than those two parameters because there are key value pairs. You can use as many as you like. So you can, with one line of code, you are able to initialize a new document and set values already. The second needs a hash map to be predefined, of course, which also contains a string as a key and an object as a value. And that hash map can be used also to create a document and replace all the item values with one line of code. Of course, you have to save it afterwards, but that's not a new thing. There are alternatives to replace item value. You can treat your document object like if it was a map. There are put and put all methods available. Put does similar thing like replace item value, but it's much shorter to code. Put all does the same with a given hash map, like in the create document example before. Alternatives to GetItemValue, and I use that XXX to point out that there are in Java there are several GetItemValue methods available: string, integer, double, blah blah blah. You can, and this is really great. You can also treat that document object like a map by using a get method, and you deliver the key value to gain the item value. And the second one is my favorite. The GetItemValue method is still existing, but with a second parameter. The first is the item name, of course, but the second one gives you the possibility to define the return value of that GetItemValue method. The example, I'll show you the code example later. This is a document creation method with the key value pairs. It just creates a document with some fields, some stupid fields inside, and timestamps and so on. And this uses the value map. The code behind it is quite different. I can show you that in my demo code. Document, where are you? Document handling. There is it. These are the two methods I just used with my two buttons. This is the create method, which is using the parameter list to pre-initialize those items, which is form, ID, date, yeah, these three. And the second one uses the map version, which is using the map here. The map contains also a form, an ID, and a date. Yeah, and this one is also using the put method to set the date value. And one thing, by the way, as I see it, the put and replace item values are now accepting Java dates as a date value. Okay, here we are. Some additional words about GetItemValue. What you are used to when using the GetItemValue method, it was always returning a vector. Vectors are somewhat 2000s, and the most important part is they are not type safe. So first, the editor complains that the type is not safe when using that method, and you even cannot define a type for the vector that you are using to store the return value. So you have to use the suppress warning stuff and so on. I don't like that. And the next problem is the vector that is a return value of the old-fashioned method can contain almost anything. Due to the different data types an item can have, so it can be a string, it can be a number, it can be a date time, which is very difficult to handle normally. and you have to check what's inside after you created the value or you get the value returned. And what is worst, if the item does not exist, you are running into trouble because you are not getting null as a return value, you are getting an empty vector. So testing of this is very, very complicated. So I come now to the GetItemValue method from the ODA, which I love. This is an example of how to use it. You can cast the return value to a type of your choice. This example line says, okay, I want to store that item value in that array list called values. For that, I read the item foo in this case, and the second parameter says, okay, I want to cast it into an array list class. So you can do whatever you want with it, with that values object afterwards, but you don't get into trouble when you are accessing a vector that is an item that is not existing. This is the first thing. It is type safe because you define your own type. So it is type safe by design. And as I said, a non-existing item is returned as null, so you can check for it. It can be handled. This is really cool. Got it? Okay. Okay. Next one. Yeah. Datetime enhancements. This is a quick one. Whoops. There are some enhancements in the existing methods you may know. For example, session create datetime. If you want to create a datetime object, it still creates a datetime object, of course, but now you can use it like you are used to maybe in a formula language. You can use int values to define year, month, day, and hour, minute, seconds, which may come in handy. So you don't have to use a string, which has to be a special format for create datetime to get working. Another thing is the datetime version of the ODA has already methods that only Java date only has. These are the methods is before and is after. So you don't have to convert your datetime object into a Java date object anymore. That's nice. Saves some lines of code. And there are comparison methods, which is very cool. Because as a nodes user, we are experience problems with datetime elements when the item does contain only a date or only a time or both, or we don't know. So we are able to do comparisons by ignoring the date part or the time part with that equals ignore methods. It's nice. So the date time part is just a simple table with static values. They do not come from any documents. They are just using date time objects. And as you can see, there are comparisons done. And yeah, this is just an example, a static example of what I have coded inside that demonstration class. So this is how the values are were created. I'm using the new method with that int values. I have a list of all the date values, which is the value, the base for a repeat control in my X page. So it just computes, it just computes at runtime at the X page level. The repeater reads the list and displays the values, and the comparison is done in the X page. Of course, I can show you that. It's very, very simple. The repeater, where is it? There is a repeater. That's quite nice hidden. So the repeat control. It's using the getDates method from my class. By the way, all my example classes are defined as beans, so therefore I can use that notation. There are some methods from my dateline. This is another class. It's just a helper to compute the color, and to get the start and end values. So you can easily reproduce and learn from my examples. I hope so. If you, as I said, if you have questions, don't hesitate to contact me, and I can explain or help. Okay, this was the bread and butter stuff. Now for something completely different. It's called transactions. Transactions is a term that is usually not part of our nodes and Domino world, because we don't have transactional data handling in our applications available. You are used to have transactions or used to use transactions in other data systems like SQL databases of all kind. The ODA gives us a very basic way to have transactional functionality. For example, if you have to modify a large number of documents by looping through a view, like in our first example, you modify each document each time the loop is executed, and you of course have to save that document to get the modifications written to the NSF. What if during the loop through your view or your data will cause a runtime exception and the loop is interrupted? You result in a part of documents and the number of documents that were modified successfully, but on the other hand, the rest of them were not modified because your code crashed. In that case, it would be helpful to roll back all the transactions, which basically means modification on your documents. In this case, to have the modification reset back to the original values would be great. Thanks ODA, we now have a transaction functionality, and it's very, very easy to use. These are just 3 lines of code to add to your existing application code. You just have to create a new so-called database transaction object from the nodes database object. So DB in this case is simply a database object. And the new method is start transaction. Then you can perform your modifications and decide afterwards whether to commit or roll back. These are the terms when it comes to transactions. So a simple example, and the code, of course, I will show you here. The page is boring. It's basically containing the 2 buttons which let me modify my documents but roll back. This column displays the modified date. I click the button and my code modifies each document that is accessed here. I think I'm not using the tens of thousands here, but just a few. You can see the date was not changed. This button modifies documents, and you can see the modification is committed. It's now displaying the current date and time. The total amount was 20 documents in this case. The code behind it is very simple. So this is the main method used here from the 2 buttons. And I only give hard-coded, do I want to fail or do I want to succeed in my transaction here? It basically gives or lets me to decide whether to commit or roll back everything. But the key part is that line which modifies the document in that doc loop. What you don't see here in this example is a doc.save. No save method is used to modify the documents afterwards if the modifications were committed. That's the reason for the possibility for me to roll everything back. If something happens inside here and I have to interrupt the execution, I can, at least in my exception handling, I can roll back everything. And this is a very neat thing. Okay. Okay, another nice thing, and I have to hurry up a bit because I'm running out of time, I think. It's the XOTS. I just want to give you an idea what it is. It's an extension to the DOTS, the Domino Tasklet service, which was introduced a few years and a few versions ago. Use cases are when you want to have multi-threaded executable code, like you are used to from classes that uses a runnable interface. You can now return values from that threaded execution. It is a very new feature, and it's alpha. I would say it's alpha because sometimes it's a bit buggy. Okay. As I'm running out of time, I want to skip that because it's not that interesting. I think the thing you are here for is the graph stuff. This is a completely different topic, but now available in Domino. Graphs are if it comes to graphs, it's often referred to just as graphs, but the meaning behind it is graph DBs, graph databases. So you can read about what is a graph database afterwards, but just in short, a graph database stores objects, and this is the key part, and the relations between those objects, the connections. In this graphic, you can see objects like persons, Julie in this case, or Bob, but you also find objects of different types, in this case rock music or BMW. The lines that are connecting those objects are called edges in this case. The terms of graph databases are elements or nodes with a D, nodes, and edges. Sometimes nodes are referred to as vertices. This is another term. This is a short explanation of what a graph DB is. I summarize the terminology again here for you. As I said, we refer to the objects as vertices, and it's simple are key value pairs. Or nodes documents. Don't get me wrong, it can be nodes documents. Edges are the connections, the relations between two vertices. There are different type of edges, one-to-one or one-to-many relations. Everything is possible. Element store is another word for database. In this case, for us, it's an NSF database. And to have the various combinations you can achieve with that architecture using edges and vertices and one-to-many and so on, sometimes you need a very unique key to separate them and especially to find your information afterwards. So an UNID is a nice thing, and a replica ID is also a nice thing. The implementation of the graph functionality, thanks to Nathan Freeman, by the way, who did a lot of effort at this part, is the so-called metaversal ID. The metaverse ID is a hashed combination of the replica ID of a database and an UNID of a document which is in that database. So, now the GraphDB idea comes to Domino, which is a nice thing. We are talking about Domino documents, nodes documents when talking about vertices and edges. The data container is an NSF. The element store object defines the file path to that NSF, as simple as that. An element store can hold different types of vertices, but usually you will create an element store for each of that vertex type. For example, a person or a car or music or whatever, as it was in the example image. Okay, this was also very fast. So let's see the demo. What I did there with the graphs, and this is a use case. So I just initialized my graph setup. And the graph setup created, in this case, vertices of types session, conference session. Let's say that because session is not unique. It's a conference session, you may know, and it has a title, that conference session. It's a basic Java object. It's a simple Pujo, as you know, and it is a representation of a nodes document which contains items and values, item and a value. There are also definitions in that conference session object that let me attend or unattend that session, which basically means there has to be another object type, in this case an object attendee. An attendee is a person, completely different from a conference session, but there is a possibility to have a connection, an edge between those two elements. And with this method that is executed here by this button, the connection will be created automatically. And this is the key part. You don't have to worry about your code, your way of creating those relations between those objects. The framework will do everything for you. And when I say framework, if you want to look it up, it's the so-called Tinkerpop framework that is used here, that's implemented in the Domino API. And yeah, I show you the sample code, what's behind those buttons. And of course, I have to show you what will happen when I click that button. I will attend that session, and my name was automatically added here. I have to re-init the graph because there's a problem with the unattend method, but you can see the attendees here, and if I attend this session, my name is automatically added here. So the code behind it is containing the setup of that graph, setting those paths to those databases. Don't worry if the database does not exist. It will be created automatically. It's just a simple one. It even don't has a view inside. This is a very weird thing, but it's not used anymore, and you don't use it also, and you are just using those methods. So I am creating getting the databases when they are created, they are initialized, and then this is the main part, the build graph method. So the build graph is below here. So of course this is a static demonstration code which creates those conference session objects. Usually you would create those objects by looping through your documents that represent your conference sessions, and also with the presenters and the attendees, yeah, your names list, for example. This is just a static construction of data that is defined. Okay, setting the title and so on and so on. And here you can see how the attendees were pre-set up. So there is an attendee defined called Peter Parker, and Peter Parker will attend my session number 2, which is the conference session called Look Mom No Passwords. So this is a lot of code for setting up simple database structure, but it is using just code. And this is the key part. You are not using any nodes objects here. You don't call a database, create document, and set forms and items and blah, blah, blah. You don't have to do it. You're just using the graph methods, the built-in graph methods, and finally this is something you don't forget, use the commit method. And this is the whole point. You are not dealing with nodes documents, not with self-created relations between those documents. You don't have to care about IDs or something. It's all done for you by that framework. So what I have to show you is just to give you an idea what a data model can look like. This is also a very basic one. This is the definition of the conference session. The conference session uses annotation. All those data objects use annotations that are also built in that graph part from the ODA. The type value is usually the form name. Property definitions like this method, get and set method, you will use to define getter and setter in your classes. This is very similar, but the property annotation says, okay, there will be an item in my notes document, in my target or source document, which is called title. These annotations and methods, the setter and getter, are to define which connections, which edges are available or will be available to a programmer or even for me. So you define the attends edges and the presents edges. The label information is just a name for that edge. You can name it whatever you want. The direction is also a thing you can define, but you don't have to. It says if an attendee can attend a session, but of course a session cannot attend an attendee. This does not make sense. So it is useful in some cases to define directions. Of course, you can use directions which say both. But in this case, it's just in. Okay, it's a very complicated for first timers. It's a very complicated topic. It's a very interesting topic, and the question you may have is, what the heck should I do with that? You are able to build a blazing fast document stores, and you are able to build blazing fast search engines with that graph stuff. So you just have to call methods from your, in this case, maybe the conference session that says, okay, just list me all the attendees. However, they were defined from which database or whatever, which database is used. You don't have to define that. Your code is very slim and very structured by using those graph methods when it comes to, okay, just filter me something, just give me informations that correlate with each other, and so on and so on. So you get some kind of a SQL database functionality plus extras. So I also put the resources I used here on that slide. And I hope you got the idea, and I hope I could produce some interest in having a look at the great OpenNTF Domino API, because now it's time for our Q&A. But before we start that, I want to leave you with that information, yeah, we would be happy to get in touch with you. And yeah, let's start with the Q&A session. Scott, are you there?
I'm here. All right, so just in case anyone has a question, there's a lot of information there. But if you do have some questions, now is the time to type it in. Also, for your information, if you look at your GoToWebinar control panel, I just added the handout of all of our slides. So if you want to download those these slides, you can. So just go to your GoToWebinar, and there is a section called handouts. And that file is there and now available for you to download. But if there are any questions, now is the time to type them in. I'm not sure if everyone is just like overwhelmed or they get it.
Sorry for that.
We have a webinar full of intelligent, absolutely brilliant people, so they got it right from the get-go. Doesn't look like there's any questions. So. And me not being a developer, yeah, I'm really overwhelmed. So we do have a question coming in. So here we go, John. Thank you for the question. Can the API or at least parts of it be added to the NSF as jars instead of installing as an OSGI plugin?
Yes and no. No, I would definitely not recommend to do that. I have no idea. Can you hear me? Hello?
Okay.
Hi?
Yep. We're okay.
It was just muted. Yeah. I would not recommend to do that. And I don't think at some point it wasn't possible to do that. But I'm aware of the intention of the reason why this question popped up. You don't want to install the OSGI plugin on your server because you can't, and that's a great problem. I'm aware of that, but no, you cannot add jar files to the NSF to use it.
All right, perfect. Next question: do you have to consider memory when using transactions?
Definitely, yeah. It is likely that the modified documents, or at least the items that you modified, has to be stored somewhere, and in this case, it's the memory. I'm not a developer of the ODA, but I'm pretty sure that this data is serializable, so it can be written to the disk. But basically, it's memory. So if it is a large amount of documents, then it can be a problem if the server has not enough memory. But to be honest, I have no numbers, so not a number of documents where it definitely won't work anymore. So I think Paul Withers is or Jesse Gallagher is are the guys to ask that if there are any measurements done before or benchmarks or something like that. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, if they want to make comments, you can just type the comments into the question, and I can read that back to everyone. So let's see, next question. When OSGI is installed, is it always present? For example, can it be disabled?
When the plugin is activated in the update side NSF, then it's loaded, and if everything else is running perfectly with the XSP runtime and the JVM and so on, and the server starts and loads those plugins, then the OSGI is persistent and permanently available. If you want to use the other way, installing those plugins via the folder, the Domino JVM folder, you can also do that. Then it's loaded in a different way, but also always present, which means that your application on the machine can access this functionality. Yes. And it can't be unloaded during runtime, as I'm aware of. If you want to get rid of an OSGI plugin, you have to deactivate it in the update side or remove the folders from the Java xlib folder and have to restart the HTTP server by issuing restart task HTTP, which restarts it completely.
Okay, perfect. And just a comment from Maria. She said, thank you very much. This helped her a lot. So thank you, Maria, for that comment. Next one, could an 8.5.x version be created even if it was a cut down version? So this is probably a question for the developers that created this API.
Yeah, there is no definite no you can't do, because when you look at the project page, there are OpenNTF Domino API versions available for download, which were running on 8.5.3, but of course they don't have all the features I just showed. If you just want to utilize that nice and neat document handling stuff or datetime or something else, then you could try to use that package that is suitable for your Domino release.
All right. Okay, excellent. Does the API work in the XSP Bluemix runtime?
Definitely, it works perfectly. I am already using it. If you go to my homepage, or if you used to watch Notes and 9 contributions, I blogged about it to use plugins, which is the ODA or anything else from OpenNTF or from somewhere, and how to deploy it on the XSP runtime, which is shipped with Bluemix. It's a very simple process to do so. Of course, not via the update side mechanism. In this case, you have to play with folders, but the rest is done automatically by the Bluemix runtime. It's great. So just look at my blog post about it from my website, or watch the last Notes and 9 contributions from me. I think it was 183, 4, and 5. And the last one deals with how to set up plugins in Bluemix.
Brilliant. Thank you. A couple more to go here. Rollback is only, actually, all of you, if you could look at your GoToWebinar control panel, you should be able to see the questions now and expand that. So the last one, I'm not sure
Sure.
how this is, if this might be referring to something else.
The problem is I can't expand that section. Okay. You mean that TX?
Yes.
No, yeah,
yes.
TX rollback is only for the data that was changed in the methods. Okay, it also collect the changes, so it could roll back more times. The rollback is bound to any modification until from setting up the transaction via that database method, and until you call the commit or rollback method. Afterwards, you would re-instantiate it. So
Okay.
This is the start and the end. Rollback and commit is the end.
Perfect. And save the most important question for last. And this question is, if I meet up with We for IT in Orlando, will We for IT be buying the beers? And the
Of
question,
course.
and the answer is yes.
Yes, of course.
Yes, of course.
Unfortunately, I won't be there personally, but two of my brilliant colleagues, Julian and Simon, will be there, and they are happy to have a beer with you, and they are also happy to pay for it.
There you go. All right. Well, thank you, Oliver, for doing this webinar. It looks like everyone really enjoyed it. We had a great attendance, great audience, and great questions. I know this takes a lot of your time to prepare something like that, but absolutely appreciate it very much. And thank you to all attendees. Oliver, I'll give you the last word, and then we'll go ahead and close down the webinar.
Okay, yeah. I also want to thank everyone for your time, and I hope you got the idea. And yeah, and if you try it, just try it and have fun with it, and have trouble with it like I did, and yeah, and get in touch. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'll send out a link to everyone for this recording in case you want to share it with colleagues. So have a great day, everybody. And those of you who are coming to ConnectEd, we'll see you there. Those that aren't, we'll miss you, but hopefully we'll catch up at other conferences. Have a great day,
Yeah.
everybody.
You too. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.